Okay, so let's talk about Chapter 2, readying the organization, really trying to figure out how should we use our volunteers. The question you're going to need to ask is, does your organization actively plan for their volunteers? Starting with, have they thought about what are our most pressing needs to help us achieve our mission, and how could we engage volunteers around that? Or are they scurrying around to find something for their volunteers to do? Because we can't plan from the beginning, these organizations are already up and running, we're stuck with however they are, but we can still suggest that they take the time, if they haven't already, to sit down and think about what do they really need and how could volunteers play into that. Maybe they do already have certain activities that they use volunteers for, and they do know how they help them with the mission. Maybe they hold an annual event and they need volunteers to staff it. Maybe they're, an animal shelter and they invite people to come in and exercise the animals and clean up the cages. Maybe they're a theater and they regularly use volunteers to be ushers. It could be anything. But are they thinking bigger? Are they thinking beyond those roles? Are they thinking what roles need filling and how might volunteers fill them? Or are they not thinking about volunteers for those roles that need filling at all? For example, what if the organization is kind of small and the executive is acting as the chief cook and bottle washer? Maybe she would like, or he would like, some professional volunteers, a part-time volunteer bookkeeper, a marketing person, a fundraising person. There are people who would like to volunteer their time and their expertise. And so the question is not only what are they currently doing, but where else would a volunteer work? Now, they may not be thinking that way because, and we'll see this in subsequent videos, but they may be thinking that there are certain jobs that only a paid staff should do. We will talk later about the ways that we can work with volunteers to have them be as responsible as paid staff. It doesn't always happen, but it can. And a lot of it isn't how you find that one person who's available. A lot of it is, how do you treat your volunteer job so that people take it just as seriously as they would a regular job? And we're going to learn how to do that and make those recommendations where they're appropriate to your client. Okay, so Radio Phoenix. Radio Phoenix is actually 100% volunteers, with the exception of this one volunteer coordinator who's actually relatively new. And so they are already pretty together about it. Their whole mission is managed by volunteers. So this isn't necessarily a place where they have a lot of work to do. But they do have one part-time staff who's the volunteer coordinator. And when I listen to her talk, or when I read what she wrote, it sounds like she's stretched pretty thin. Maybe what they could do, or what could be proposed here, is that they get a couple of volunteers who are already volunteering and suggest that they take an enhanced accountability role and perhaps put one of them in charge of helping to coordinate each of those teams that we talked about: the board, the music group, the programming folks, and the fundraisers. Anyway, that's the kind of suggestion I might make. I'm thinking outside the box, even though they've already got their jobs and they even have job descriptions and so forth. I could see that this part-time volunteer coordinator probably could use some help, and that could be a volunteer, especially somebody that's already there, already knows the ropes, and could help with the others. All right, I'll see you in the next video where we will be talking about Chapter 3.